Next speaker is a professor at Tulane University's Freedom School of Business. He's going to share some informative and entertaining perspectives on the financial markets, and he's going to discuss how you can adapt so that you can better assist your clients. Please, everybody, welcome Peter Ricchiuti.
Nice place, the hotel, nice amenities. The towels are so fluffy I could barely shut my suitcase. It's really a nice spot. You know, I've taught at Tulane for 25 years, and I've been there so long that something strange is happening right now. Is students are coming up to me and saying, you know, my mother had you. And you're like, excuse me, what are we talking about here, you know? So it's but my best experience was 3 years ago, almost 3 years ago to the day, where I brought 27 students to Omaha, Nebraska to spend the day with Warren Buffett. And that was tremendous. It was a great, great, great opportunity. We went out there. You know, I meet a lot of famous people because I do a lot of public speaking, but sometimes you're kind of nonplussed when you meet them. But Buffett blew me away. He was very, very wise, very, very kind. And the very first question the students asked him is they said, and this was 8 days after they had closed Lehman Brothers 3 years ago. The first question they asked is, Mr. Buffett, how bad is it on Wall Street right now? And Buffett said, you know, it's terrible. I've never heard such sad stories. I heard a story last week where an investment banker leaves his office in Manhattan, goes to his big home in Long Island, sees his wife there, and he says, honey, listen, we got to talk because we're going to have to make some changes around here. And I don't even know how to bring this up, but darling, you're going to have to learn to cook. And so we can get rid of the chef. And she says, well, okay, but you're going to have to learn to make love so we can get rid of the gardener. And I fell madly in love with Buffett after that. That was, what a great guy. I love Warren Buffett. I love Jimmy Buffett. I love them both. Wonderful family. I don't know if you ever met them. But we're going to, let's see, a couple of things in here. Don't take any of this too seriously. I wanted to give you a little confidence in me. I wanted to show you this was a stock picking contest where I went against one of the top financial minds in this country, Mike Ditka, and was able to beat the coach. In fact, I was the investment instructor for the Saints players for a number of years, and that was a real trip because these guys, they're just like you and me. They're nothing like you and me, really. They're gigantic and young and very wealthy, and now the Saints are world champions, so I can't use the joke I used to use, which was, you know, why don't the Saints have a website? And that's because they've never been able to put together 3 W's. You know, which is but no longer can do that. We're really good. And I know that MDRT is out of Chicago, so I thought I'd replace it with a different line. And I said, what did Jesus say to the Cubs? Listen, don't do anything till I get back. So so they wanted to get the Chicago people out there. I'm a big athlete. I don't wear a cup. I wear a quart. It's kind of an interesting thing. Let's see. Here's the facts. We're not entering another Great Depression. I know this is going to be a real bummer for the media, but this is not where we're headed. If you look at the crash of '29 and the depression that occurred afterwards, the government is embarking on a program that is completely the opposite of what the government did back there. In the '30s, the government increased interest rates, they increased tariffs, and they slowed government spending to a trickle. We are going the other way. We have interest rates basically at zero, unprecedented amounts of government spending. If you look at it, and this is really the best way to look at this situation, is I like to look at Ben Bernanke. Ben Bernanke, some people like him, some people don't like him, but he is the nation's preeminent scholar on the Great Depression. He is sort of born for the position he's in right now, and that's one reason I'm a little more optimistic than a lot of people. A typical recession averages 14 months in length. If you listen to the media, you would think it'd be about 14 years. You know, I'm watching Wolf Blitzer on the Situation Room talking about the economy, and even I'm getting scared now, you know, and I think to myself, damn, if my name was Wolf, I would not grow a beard. That would be the first thing I wouldn't do. But before this, we've had 2 recessions in the last 30 years, the early 90s, and then that dot-com meltdown in 2000, 2001. You remember that's when everybody wanted to own stocks, particularly these dot-com internet companies. Remember, these were companies with no earnings, no cash flow, no assets. Who knew? I don't know why that didn't turn out better. I remember in 1999, I teach old-fashioned Ben Graham, Warren Buffett financial analysis, and the dot-coms were kind of an anathema to me. And I had a student came up to me in '99. He said, Mr. Ricchiuti, I found a stock I think is going to do really well because my friend Josh told me about it. And I'm looking at we're doing in class, and I notice it doesn't have a PE. I said, oh, there's a reason for that, Jimmy. It has no E. You know, it's kind of I was an old angry Italian man on campus, you know, as people always say something in Italian, the body's in the trunk. You know, And of course, a recession is all in the way you spin it, right? If you're a banker and you go to somebody's house and knock on the door, and you say, hey, I'm here to foreclose. Well, those people are pretty angry. But if you go to the same house, knock on the door, say, hey, you're going camping. Yeah, I think that's a lot nicer. I think it's a nicer spin, really. Yeah. I have a friend that lost his job. He always corrects me whenever I say that, though. He always says, I didn't lose my job. I know where my job is. They just, won't let me back in the building. So it's a different angle. But remember, recessions always end and the economy always rises to a higher plateau. And that has been true since the earth cooled. But people don't want to remember it. In the last few years, I keep hearing the 4 most dangerous words in finance. This time it's different. And it's never different. It is a cycle. I've been doing this for 32 years. I've been with the investment firm at Kidder Peabody. I managed all the money for the state. This is what we need to see, is it is just a cycle. This time it's different is always wrong. That's the 4 most dangerous words in finance. The 7 most dangerous words overall are, hey, we're getting the band back together. That's usually another problem. But it's, but let's see what and I don't like the way we get financial analysis either, right? I mean, instead of looking at really what the facts are, which is what I'm going to lay out in here, instead we usually send a reporter to a Walmart somewhere and ask them, you're scared of losing your job? You think the economy's bad? It's like, that's right, I'm scared, real scared. It's like, back to you, Bob, people are scared. This is ludicrous what we're doing. This is crazy. God. And whatever Walmart you go in the world, it's always the same thing. You walk in the door, is that old guy with the blue vest, the greeter guy, and he always like, so how you doing? I always want to say, isn't it obvious? I'm at Walmart. Jesus. Things are good. I'd be at Nordstrom's or Macy's, Now, we're all disappointed with the Congress over the last 6 or 8 weeks. I mean, it's deplorable. But that resulted in a credit downgrade, falling stock prices, and lots of investor fear. There's a ton of fear out there right now. However, the economy seems to be self-medicating. In other words, we're seeing energy prices are down. That's going to help consumer confidence, taking less money away at the pump. Mortgage rates are down to new lows, and the U.S. dollar is down. And we're going to talk a little bit about why that's beneficial to export and budget issues. And so if we go forward, I got this out of The Onion. White House jester beheaded for making fun of soaring national debt. And I wanted to talk about the debt because I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about the debt. First of all, what you need to look at is, if you look way to the left-hand side, what counts is not the absolute number of the debt, 14 trillion, 674 grillion, I don't know what it is. It is national debt divided by the size of the economy. That is how you get a perspective of how big the debt is. That's the only way to look at it. And if you look at it going back since the 1940s, you can see we've been higher than this before. That percentage has been worse. During World War II, it peaked. That made sense because we were borrowing a lot of money to fund the war. And then, of course, we were producing a lot for the military, so it wasn't a lot of private manufacturing into GDP. So what you had there is it was very, very high. And then after the war, it came down under Truman, down under Eisenhower, down under Kennedy LBJ, down under Nixon Ford. It sort of bottomed in the Carter administration. That's why I get a big kick out of the people that say what we need for the economy is to pay off all the debt. The time we had the lowest debt was really a pretty crummy economy. Then it went up under Bush Reagan, went back down under President Clinton. There's a lot of misunderstanding there. A lot of people say when President Clinton left office, we had a surplus. Well, we did. We had a budget surplus. We brought in more money than we had anticipated. But that does not mean we didn't have debt. We had a ton of debt, and you can see it right on the graph. And then, of course, it soared under President Bush and President Obama. Now that's the case of where we are. I'm going to say we don't have to pay off the debt. Some debt is actually good. We have too much debt right now, but you need some leverage. The best operating structure for a corporation is not all cash. The best operating structure for a family isn't necessarily no debt. You need some structure in there. We just need to get that line starting to go down the other side. And I think it's in the cards a lot faster than people believe it will be. First of all, we're going to probably pay some higher taxes. I don't know. I'm not a policy wonk. Some people are saying it's going to be taxes on income more than $250,000. Other people are saying it'll be taxes on income more than $500,000. The new proposal is that they would tax income made by somebody over $1 million a year. I don't know what it is. And I do know this, really. The bottom line is that if your family uses the term summer as a verb, you're probably going to pay higher taxes. That's what I'm thinking. That's kind of a little general thing. I think it'll help you out here. The English majors, I got it. I told your mom it was a good major. We're going to see some budget cuts. We've already seen some budget cuts. There's more. I have more faith in this committee of 12 than most people. I think there'll be some solid cuts coming out of there. That's going to help. The third part of the numerator of that equation is changes to entitlement programs. Now you say, Peter, that's ridiculous. Nothing's happened. Why do you feel optimistic about that? Well, I've been doing this for 32 years, and I've never seen anybody even bridge to touch these issues before. It's what we used to call in politics a third rail issue. If a politician even mentions something about changing entitlements, all of a sudden it's like, where's Bob? Bob's gone. You know, we're having real meetings with real TV cameras now. It's great. And something will be done. I think, for instance, Social Security, we're going to have to raise that age out. We're going to have to tweak a lot of things. Maybe move Social Security out to 70 years, something like that. You're going to have to see it. You need all three of these things. And finally, the denominator is higher revenue from a rebounding economy, which is happening. I'm going to show you that we're not contracting. We're still growing, albeit not as at higher rate as people would want. This is the interest burden on the debt, by the way. Kind of surprising. We're now paying less in interest than we are since the mid-1970s. Now, the reason that is we're borrowing a lot of money, but rates are so low that we are not really being eaten up by interest costs. And that's something a lot of people misunderstand. Or as my old college roommate used to say, and I'll never forget this, he always said, Peter, remember, it's not premarital sex if you have no intention of getting married. That's what he'd say. And that kind of got me through the tough years. And so let's see, the profits count a lot. You know, the stock market is up since the bottom of March of 2009. The stock market's up about 90% from there. And people say, why is that? Why is that? You know, remember in end of 08, beginning of 09, all your clients wanted to say, listen, get me out of the stock market, cash out my 401k, and when things get better, I'll get back in. Oh, you're right. The problem with that is the stock market is a leading economic indicator. It's moving before the economy moves. Just like unemployment is a lagging economic indicator. You need to know where they are in the cycle. If you're an investor and got out and put your money in cash in 2008 and waited for things to get better, if you're waiting for Katie Couric to come out and go, whoa, there's jobs everywhere, you're going to pay about $15,000 on the Dow. That's just the way it works. What moves the markets and what moves stocks individually is earnings. That is the driver. Since World War II, corporate profits are up 110-fold. Stock prices have risen 80-fold. Those numbers are pretty close together, and that's telling you that what you have to keep your eye on the ball on is corporate earnings. The rest of it is noise. The rest of it is meaningless. The rest of it is like the buffet at a strip club. It's just not that important. You invited the guy from New Orleans. What did you think was going to happen?